And next up, we are going to continue our journey in API products, and we're going to talk about generating OpenAPIs, which is an overarching theme at any API days, from business models, which I think should be really interesting. So Frederic, can you get on stage? Frederic.
Okay. Hello. Can you see me?
I can
It's
see
okay?
you great. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thanks. Okay, then about OpenAPI specification, the topic is about how to think about business model, then to transform this model into OpenAPI specification. Okay, about me, then I am an architect and API designer. I have such a big experience. I own some certification, especially in UML, microservice requirement, something like that. And I am also the author, designer, and developer of the Swappy. Swappy is the tool that allow me to transform UML model into OpenAPI specification. And I work as currently as an API designer in a bank company and finance company. Okay. Alors, then what is the genesis of Swappy and the approach that I'm going to show you? Uh, in fact, there is a gap, really a gap between business people, stakeholder, and technical stakeholder. Usually, it's too much considered as a technical concern to define an API, and too much on technical detail and too little on the business. There is also some another fact that I seen the complexity of the HTTP rules, how to apply, in which context, which pattern, what are the API convention, and so on. Also, when we talk with business people, we need to have diagrams to which data, which operation, and so on. Okay, and for me, there is a lack of an efficient tool which is able to transform this model into OpenAPI. And there is also the topic of the lack of consistency. The same business object can be defined in many ways, even in one API and even more at the enterprise level. Okay, this is the fact. If I see the OpenAPI manifesto, it's very focused on the business, on global. This is a very keyword, very important keyword. Agility. Okay. When we design, we have to design the API. Some principles have to be applied, especially abstraction and reusability. And there are many other principles, autonomy, standardization, but abstraction and reusability is very important. And at the end, the objective is that the IT is very aligned on the business. Okay, concerning the OpenAPI, then the OpenAPI is a formal definition of an API. It's a grammar. I think everybody knows what is the OpenAPI and the ecosystem of the OpenAPI. Then it's used for generate code. There was a previous workshop concerning the code generation. It's used on the API gateway. Almost all the API, Xway also. It's used to check conformity, security. For example, the 42 crunch. It's used to generate some tests. Okay. What I have seen then in the company, often you have a business stakeholder that tells a user story. This story is understood by an API developer, and the API developer then write the OpenAPI specification. It's not very realistic. Okay, it's because it's very ambiguous. There is not enough workshop. Usually, there is not enough workshop with business people. There is no diagrams. But there are many. For me, there are many issues that working like that. Okay, which way I would like to use to define the API. Huh? I would like something talk about the customer journey to have use case to define the data that I will exchange using the API, which operation that I use. Okay, but usually I have tools like that. I have to write the OpenAPI specification in an editor, and it's not, for me, it's not very efficient. Okay, then I propose another way to generate the OpenAPI. Then first, of course, starting with the business requirements, use case, scenario, customer journey, and so on. And in this phases, we have to define the solution, the business solution. Next step is to transform the solution into formal model. I will talk about UML that is used. And once the formal model, the UML model are defined, this model have to be transformed into OpenAPI. And we add all the technical design part, HTTP, response, header, and so on. And then we still have the ecosystem, code generation, deployment, and so on. Okay. For the transition from the business requirement to the functional design, it's manual. From the functional design to the technical design, I have developed a tool that allows us to transform the model to a technical design. The name of the tool is Swappy. Okay. If I have, why I have chosen UML? Because in fact it match many of the API design requirements. You have the concept of entity, class, interface, operation, property. You have also deployment features. You have a sequence diagram, a use case. In fact, it's very it fits very much the API. It allows also the concept of object-oriented design. It's very important, even for business. It's very important. I have very good feedback from the business stakeholder, even someone who are very business oriented and have no idea of what an API is. But I can work using UML. I can work with the business people. Okay, you have many modelers. You have UML is a standard, and so on. Then, if I focus more on the step, I will be very fast. Just first part is to identify use case. Then after the use case identify, you have to detail or a simple use case or a more detailed use case. And for that, I have chosen the technical of a narrative use case. Then you have one nominal scenario, a set of alternative. You have to define all the possible variation, all the extension. The extension is what happens if something goes wrong. Like that, you can process all the exception, error, and so on. It's very functional. Focus on the functional. But it's the solution. It's very different from the user story. User story is an expression of a needs. The use case, the narrative use case, is the definition of the business solution. Once you have defined the narrative use case, then there is an algorithm that allows us to transform the narrative use case and the requirements to service candidate. Then we are starting to the UML model. We can define the operation. We can do the interface which match the service and then the API, the property, and so on. Okay. When we model the UML model, we can also, there are many patterns. Then, for instance, the architectural pattern that you apply on a modeling. Many of these patterns, there are hundreds of patterns, but many of these patterns can be applied during the UML modelization, modeling. Okay. There is one features in the method, then a business concept, a data business concept is defined not only once for the API, it's defined once for all the enterprise. And this concept will be used in all API. Of course, there is a way to fit the business data to the API, to the API scope, but it's designed only once. And this business concept will be transformed into schema in the OpenAPI, and the API and the operation of the API will use this schema. Okay, then we have to model. There is the structural part. For instance, this is the modeling of the CMS for content management system. This is the modeling of the data part. We can use the inheritance when we have a set of data structure, data are of the same nature. Okay, and this inheritance will be transformed in the OpenAPI specification. There is also the concept of typing using an interface. It's very powerful for business reasons. You can have a property, and when you want to type the property, but this property may be typed by item that something that have very different nature. For instance, I have an agreement, I want to find something, but it could be a vehicle, it could be an accessory, it could be an item. The nature is very different, and I can use an object concept for that. Okay, I can, of course, I can define in the UML model all the operation and the parameters. Okay. More than the OpenAPI, what is interested too is that the modeling of the data structure is not only concerned not only the OpenAPI, but I can use it for generating the Avro schema. I can use it for generating the gRPC protobuf, in fact. Then, like that, for instance, OpenAPI and schema, the object will be very consistent because they come from the same model. OpenAPI and Avro, it's already operational. It works. Okay. About the roles, what is very interesting is the time spent on the approach. Then there is 30 to 35% of the time from the analysis to design, and not the governance. The governance and implementation are not taken into account. But concerning the analysis and the design part, functional design and technical design, there is a large part with the business expert and product owner. There is a much more large part with the functional designer than modeling the data, modeling the operation, and the part of designing the OpenAPI specification is very small. I can design an API having 100 to 200 1,000 to 2,000 lines of OpenAPI specification in less than 20 minutes. It's very short time because it's highly automated. and all the business have been designed in the UML part. Okay, I propose to switch on a video. The video is quite long, but I will pass very fast. Okay. I started an OpenAPI specification that here we are in the UML model. Then there is an arborescence, a tree, this is the model. Model is divided into a model part, which is the data part, and the controllers, which is more focused on the operation. And an interface will be transformed into an OpenAPI specification. Okay, and in the swapping tool, I retrieve, of course, the structure is the UML structure, of course. I will fast forward. Okay, I create an OpenAPI. Then when I create an OpenAPI, okay, a list of this is the OpenAPI specification structure. Okay, we have the server, path, component, and so on. We can define the server part. We can define the path. Okay. Here in this part, you can see the YAML is generated in live. When I process something in the model. Okay. The YAML is updated. Then now it's very low, but it will increase very fast. Okay, then I created an operation. I've chosen a path. For each parameters that is it a path, a query, body parameters. Alors, here now in a few seconds we have now more than 100 and about 700 lines of YAML code, because everything is computed from the UML model. The parameter has a type, which is usually a primitive type or more business type, and the tool computes automatically it computes automatically the structure of the schema. It's built automatically. Okay, then now I created the response. All the type of the response are okay. It's quite almost automatical. Okay, I accelerate. Can do it. Okay, I do it for all of the operation. I do it for all operation. All the code, for instance, code the non-success response. It's the exception in the UML model. You can on an operation you can define an exception, and the tool retrieve the exception to type the response, to define the schema of the response, and so on and so on. We can define, of course, headers. I have not a lot of time that I must go very fast. Okay, I can create link. The link are automatically computed. Then I have defined a link in a sequence diagram, and then the link, the structure of the link is almost computed. And there is for people that know OpenAPI specification, for a link you have a grammar, and we can define the set of expressions that define the links. And the consistency of the link is always monitored by the rules engine. Okay, like that. We can add annotation. We can define a complete schema of the security. Okay, and we can define which is called the security requirement, that the schema security are applied to the operation. And this part is very important because this is the set of the schema. The schema are automatically computed, but probably you want to fit for instance, the concept of order is defined for world enterprise. The concept of financeable is defined for world enterprise, and so on and so on. But you can define exactly which property you want to keep for this schema and for the API. You just have to click to check and check, and the YAML is computed automatically. And the tool compute also automatically which schema have to be removed or which schema have to be added to the OpenAPI specification. Okay. I'm sorry to, but I have to fast forward. Okay. Okay, some information about the API itself. This is the code that is generated from the tool, and just for displaying, I have inserted the tool in the editor swagger.io. Then, in less than 25 minutes, the code has there are more than 500 line of specification code. In less than 25 minutes, the whole code has been generated with no error, with a very high consistency, and is very aligned on the business model.
Awesome. We have a skepticism about speed in the chat. Is it really faster to write your API spec in UML rather than directly using OpenAPI YAML or JSON format?
Oh, yes.
Or is it
By far.
because you have more employees knowing UML?
It's really not an issue to talk about UML, because almost all the people for which I talk with don't know UML. Then in a one, maybe two workshop at most, they learn UML. It's very easy. Huh? And after, we never talk about the UML concept. We talk about the business concept.
Okay, well, I definitely like that's definitely a modern theme with.
Currently, this solution is operational in a great bank, in a very major French bank. It's already in use. Huh? It's not conceptual. It's already used to build the API. In fact, it's used for build a set of API for many countries, but it will be the same set of APIs, but with different implementation of each country. And the level of abstraction is very high, because I use mechanism like typing using an interface. It's very powerful.
Okay, and okay, so are your business stakeholders, like the customer you already have, do they already use UML? And how do you manage to train different roles in the company to different tools, i.e. use case designer, UML designer, things like that?
And the question is,
are your business stakeholders, including in your company and your large customer you just said, already UML users? Or are you also educating your customers and all your business stakeholders in trainings?
I don't know how to answer to that. I train the business stakeholders, but it was very short. In fact, I manage a workshop. They told me about the business, and I model in live with using UML. Then most of the workshop are about defining the business, work on the UML definition with the business people, and after alone in as I told you, as I show you, in a very short time, I am able to provide a very complicated, the Open API, a very complete Open API.
Awesome. That sounds great. I do hope you'll log into the event because there are more questions that people want to ask. We're out of time, but please do go to the event and answer the questions in the chat, please. Okay?
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Frederic. You garnered a lot of questions, and thank you, audience, for continuing to ask questions. Next up.